President Sara Duterte has resigned from Lakas CMD, where she served as chairperson.
President Bongbong Marcos has downplayed the resignation of Vice President Sara Duterte from Lakas CMD.
Very simple, exactly as he says. Alam mo naman si Inday Sara is very plain-spoken. Kung ano yung sinabi niya, yun ang ibig sabihin niya. She has too much work to do. That she cannot be involved in any of this. She cannot allow herself to be distracted. That's the way I read it.
Congressman Edsel Lagman believes that Vice President Sara Duterte's exit from Lakas CMD and the demotion of Congresswoman Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo to Deputy Speaker are related.
I think we should also be careful to not read too much into it. I really see it just as a run-of-the-mill. It comes in once in a while, a run-of-the-mill na reorganization na ginagawa sa House.
The House of Representatives is still abuzz after a revamp that cost Congresswoman Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo a senior leadership position. While some say this is a normal occurrence at the lower house, others believe the former president's demotion had something to do with the 2025 and even the 2028 elections. Let's get more insights on this development in this episode of The Chiefs. And welcome to this midweek edition of The Chiefs. I'm Ed Lingao. Tonight with me in the studio, Ana Marie Pamintuan, the Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star. Tayong dalawa na naman.
Oo nga, well, happy midweek.
Happy midweek. It's a hump day. Ibig sabihin nun, lumalapit naman ang Biyernes. Sarap ng tao mo. Teka, maraming unresolved, marami pa rin unresolved patapos na tayo ng, well, malapit na tayo matapos ng linggo. Pero dahil pa rin mga tanong doon sa mga pangyayari from last week.
Hindi pa rin natin alam kung sino si Tambalos.
Okay, erase yung image.
Hindi, pero merong bagong post si VP Sara Duterte, di ba? With the President's sister, si Amy Marcos.
Oh, and that should tell you something.
Pero joke lang yung kanyang
lang yun,
reference to another person na everyone knows naman na hindi yung pinaparinggan niya sa kanyang post.
But the appearances in the posts also tell you something yung the appearances of Amy with Sara, the appearance of Sara in a photo with Gloria, di ba? Lahat yan may ibig sabihin
Oo nga.
Without saying anything, it says a lot as well.
Yes, and we all know na, well, yun lang naman ng mga haka-haka na medyo out we used to call her the super ate ng Pangulo, di ba? The SAP. Pero mukhang hindi siya ngayon yung special assistant to the president. Hindi. It's actually perception lang naman. Si Speaker Romualdez actually yung malabonggo na SAP nitong presidente na to. So meron pa rin yung mga...
Pero magandang himayin yan, given what's been happening, saan kaya ngayon sino?
Yan na nga. Within the family, within the party, at yan ang iniintay natin, within the cabinet, which is being reorganized, as far as we know.
So, what's being said, what's not being said, what we should divine from all these things, among other things, we will start a conversation with our guests tonight, right after this short break. The Chiefs will be right back. And welcome back to the Chiefs. Let's bring in political analysts Ronald Llamas and Ranjit Rai. Sirs, magandang gabi and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Magandang gabi, Ed, Ana Marie, Prof.
Magandang gabi. And thank you for joining us tonight. A lot to unpack or unwrap, if you wanna put it that way. A lot to peruse, a lot to sift through. Ang dami mga nangyari, pero sa huli, kahit ang dami nangyari, parang, so anong nangyayari? Of course, from our end, we have a lot of speculation from our end because all of these things are happening, of course, underground or under the radar. What we'd like to get is your insights. For example, the president says, baka naman we're reading too much into all these things. Are we? What do you read? From both of you, what do you read from all these developments in the last week?
Kanina nga, Ed, pinadalan ko yung isang kaibigan mo ng mga columns ng mga other political analysts, si Bobby Tiglao, si Senator Kit Tatad, tsaka si Malutikia. Si Malutikia, ang binabanatan yung unity. Si Bobby Tiglao, ang binabanatan yung 2028 presidential elections. Si Kit Tatad, ang binabanggit niya yung foreign policy ang nakaapekto dito sa mga pangyayaring ito, yung pro-China at saka yung pro-US. At pinadala ko rin sa kanila yung lumalabas na blast sa social media na inisa-isa yung weaknesses ni President Bongbong Marcos at nakasentro yung banat kay First Lady Lisa Marcos. Lahat yan lumabas today. So, hindi nawawala itong hindi na downplay itong mga pangyayari. Nag-i-scale up pa. Kaya,
Teka,
yung sinabi ni
what are you
President
implying, Ronald?
Bongbong Marcos.
What are you implying? This is a concerted thing? Lahat lumabas today? This is something that they've talked about and that they've scheduled? Ano to?
Well, Ed, Ana Marie, mga 3 months ago, itong mga kaibigan ko sa politiko sa Abante, pinain ako. Yung interview ko, ginawa nilang meme. That was 3 months ago. At nakalagay sa meme ay, ingat ka, Speaker Romualdez, dahil may nag-aspire na agawin ang position mo. So as early as 3 months ago, medyo nararamdaman mo na itong mga dynamics na ito. Ngayon lang pumutok. Dahil sabi nga ni Speaker Romualdez, kailangan niyang in-nip in the bud. No? Dahil meron daw planong coup na dinay naman ni ex-President Arroyo. Pero ito ay ongoing dahil inamin niya ngayon, yung hindi niya inamin last year, na gusto naman talaga niyang maging speaker. Ang hindi pa niya inaamin ay yung kanyang frustration na yung kanyang mga tinutulak sa cabinet ay hindi na-appoint. At kaya hinihimas siya ni President Marcos, kaya sinasama siya sa mga trips at tinatawag siyang secret weapon. Pero mukhang hindi na-appease si Congresswoman Arroyo. Kaya patuloy pa rin yung kanyang pagnanasa na maging speaker kahit dinenay na niya last week.
Kasi malinaw denial niya. Bok, before let's ask Professor Ranjit Rai kung anong tingin niya.
Well, there are 2 different ways to appreciate this. One, it's much ado about nothing. It should be downplayed. We're reading too much into it. Another is also to look at it as part of a evolving dynamic, within the UNI team, the ruling coalition, where you're already seeing this early breaks, in that coalition of the willing. So and it's a huge coalition, and in an interview I had after the elections, that the challenge was really like all the challenges of past presidents, that never won because of just one party, but a coalition of groups. It is to keep that coalition, together. And we know that there's a midterm elections, and but the dynamics, yes, Ronald and I were talking earlier. The dynamics is not just about the midterm elections. It's a projection into the national elections after that. So people are already moving this early. Now, I'm one of those who don't want to read too much into it, except to say that this is intramurals within the Lakas party. There must have been a coup attempt because, if there is a rumor of a coup attempt, there usually is dynamics towards it. And it's, by the way, par for the course for all speakers. A friend of mine who became former speaker told me that it's regular, to have these coups organized. Sometimes they're, most of the time, they're never known. They're very quietly done. So this is kind of a, very loud for one initiative towards a coup, But Kit Tatad makes a strong point. I read his article, and I'm one of those who believe that the schism in Philippine politics, true, it's really about personalities, very parochial concerns. But on one hand, we also know that within the ruling coalition, there's a divide along major issues. Charter change is one. A second divide is really our position on China. And within Lakas, within the UNI team, there are divergent positions as far as this is concerned. So moving together forward is really going to be a challenge, especially now that the big superpowers are looking for lobbies within the country, and groups that will articulate their position and their interests as far as the Philippines is concerned. So I don't see this coalition staying together for very long. That's my own sense, and that's what I said in May 2022 when I was interviewed in another channel that this is the key challenge. But if you ask everyday Filipinos, they don't really care about what's happening in the house.
Yeah.
No, our Okta
Yeah.
surveys are very clear. We're releasing them weekly now. No, and it's been published in all newspapers. The top 3 urgent concerns of Filipinos are really a way to manage. Now they're asking government, can we manage inflations? The inflation, the high prices are really killing them. No? Number 2, the issue of wages. How can we improve wages? They're not talking about jobs. The economy, in some sense, is recovered, no, from 6 months ago because that was the top issue for Filipinos then. Sana mga jobs, pero they're not talking about jobs. They're not talking about quality of our wages. And third is really affordable food. These are the problems of the everyday Filipino, and I wish that while we talk about this, that the real focus should be on for Congress and the executive to find a solution to these problems, and not this politicking so early in the day. In the end, as citizens, we have to advocate also. Tama na itong pamumulitika na to kasi ang daming problema ng bayan. Yung kababawan na ito, hindi talagang nakaka-turn off sa regular Filipino kasi they're very clear when you come out in the service. And by the way, it's not just Okta Research that's saying this, it's Pulse and SWS. And we've been Pulse in January, SWS in January, Pulse in March, and Okta also in the last week of March. So the latest is sa Okta, last week of March kami. And consistent yung lumalabas. These are the urgent needs. Second thing that has come out, also consistent with Pulse and Okta, is that government's doing very badly with managing inflation and reducing poverty. So that's in our presidential system, that's a problem of the coalition, whether it's in the executive and the House. We're failing as far as Filipinos are concerned in these areas. So
Sige.
sana yun ang maging focus ng efforts in the House.
Tama
Sa
Sige.
politicking.
Babalik ako sa politicking, Professor, kasi yan ang topic natin. Maya-maya we'll move to the concerns of the Filipinos based on the surveys. Kasi sinasabi, yung unity you're saying, ang sabi ng iba, talaga daw it was just a matter of time, inevitable daw na yung unity hindi magiging united, no? But people are saying this is still a little too early. And it's interesting na nabanggit kanina na 3 months ago pa daw yung mga chismis, well moves na all hotly denied na meron nang plot against Speaker Romualdez. Pero actually, kahit yung pag-alis pa lang ni President Marcos, di ba, when he went to Indonesia, nagtaka na yung mga tao Bakit siya nag-designate for the first time ng committee caretaker instead of just the VP? So medyo, parang meron ng kung ikaw medyo masyadong suspityoso, masyado kang marites, you will read something into it. You cannot not read anything into those developments kasi kakaiba Sa tingin mo, is it too early for these things to be happening? Given na ang perception natin in 2022, talagang tight na tight siyang grupong yun Di ba?
Pwede kong, tama yung sabi
Ronald,
mo.
ikaw, sige, Ronald,
Tama yung sabi mo, no? Dahil last year pa ito, ngayon lang inamin halimbawa ni ex-President Arroyo na talagang gusto niya maging speaker. Last year, tahimik naman siya. Di ba? At kung titignan natin yung first statement na lumabas last Wednesday, ay pwede kang maniwala doon sa sinasabi ni President Bongbong Marcos na wala naman ito masyadong ibig sabihin. Nasabi ni President Arroyo, ito ay prerogative ng House. Medyo napakalaking non-sequitur dahil walang kinalaman doon sa nangyari. Pero pagbigyan na natin, no? At sabi naman ng House, di ba, Professor? Ina-unburden lang namin si Congresswoman Arroyo, no? Pero kinabukasan, nagbago na yan Kinabukasan, sa mahabang letter ni ex-President Arroyo, ay inamin niya na siya ay dinemote dahil pinagsususpetsahan siya na nagpa-plot ng coup. Diba? At marami pa siyang sinabi roon between the lines, over the lines, above the lines, under the lines. Kaya maganda yung letter niya na napakahaba.
That's the
diba?
core
At saka after nun ay inamin na rin ni Speaker Martin Romualdez na ninip niya in the bud ang isang coup attempt.
Destabilization.
At nung Friday, ay nakita na natin, nag-resign si Vice President Sara Duterte at nakita siya with lunch. Nag-lunch siya with Manny Pangilinan and with Congresswoman Arroyo. At nung Sunday, nakita silang dalawa with Amy Marcos at ang matitindi na yung kanyang salita, tambaluslos na. Ibig sabihin hindi naman tayo yung nagpapalala ng sitwasyon.
Yeah.
Tayo ay nanonood lamang at binabanggit natin yung mga pangyayari. Kaya sorry na lang, President Bongbong Marcos, yung mga tao mo, yung mga nagpapalaki, no? At ngayon, yung mga vloggers, yung mga supporters ni President Arroyo at saka ni Speaker Martin Romualdez ay rumaragasa sa social media. Tindi ng banatan nila Sasot, nila Banatbay, nila ngayon sila Bobby Tiglao at saka sila former Senator Tatad at saka sila Malutikia. So makikita mo at humahalo pa dyan itong mga unsigned attacks against the President. So makikita mo na hindi tayo nagpapalala. Pinapanood nga natin sinusubukan nating ipaliwanag yung mga pangyayari, no? Kaya at malinaw sa mga statements nila na ito ay not just about Congress. It's not just about the senior speakership. No, it's also about the biggest party sa loob ng House at saka ng ating bansa, yung Lakas NUCD. At dahil yung presidente mo walang partido, itong mga dynamic sa Lakas nagkakaroon ng prominence. Dahil wala namang partido yung presidente. At makikita mo rito sa salita mismo ni ex-President Arroyo at saka ni Vice President Sara Duterte, itong politicking na ito ay pine-precipitate yung mas far-reaching election sa 2028, no? Ang aga, doon ako nagugulat, sabi ko nga kay Prof kanina. Napakaaga. Usually mangyayari yan after the midterms. Pero ngayon, 2 years before the midterms nangyayari na.
Professor
Kaya
Rai.
hintayin natin yung susunod na kabanata. Mukhang malinaw na kwanto Ed, Ana Marie, malinaw na Game of Thrones. No?
Yeah.
Professor Rai.
Somebody has
Dapat
to
gawan
know.
ni
Ano ba
Daryl
na sa
Yap
line in
Is
the
it
sand
too
na,
early,
no, as far as
Professor
Lakas is concerned. Yeah.
Professor Rai, is it
Dapat
too
gawa
early?
ni Daryl
Itong
Yap
ano,
ng miniseries.
itong mga nangyayari ngayon. Yes.
Yeah.
Professor Rai.
Well, I agree with Ronald. No, there's dynamic. Whenever the president says there's nothing to worry about, people should be worried kasi that's precisely what it means. No, the opposite. No, na talagang merong dynamic. It's within a party that is being, molded into an administration party. There is a dissonance as far as where to go, how to move forward. A big chunk of Lakas is supporting charter change. There's a segment of it, very importantly, around VP Duterte that does not support these kinds of initiatives. You have a midterm elections in a time of economic crisis, in a sense, no, for the country, where you'll need a lot of resources. So it will be very important to have a speaker that is supportive of your causes and your own parochial interests. So, these dynamics, this dynamic is seen, no, in the intramurals within Lakas, which, by the way, is only in Lakas kasi most of the parties payapa sila, nanonood sila, no, sa nangyayaring power play within Lakas. And that has implications on all of us. Tama si Ronald, because while this is an intramurals within a party and it's personality based, it will affect policy making. It will affect us, no, because it will delay the passage of certain bills, no, if people are preparing for sa Godfather, go down to the mattresses ba yan? Alam mo yan, away, di ba? And GMA, being the astute politician that Ronald and I recognize, doesn't need to be deputy speaker. The funny part is she's still deputy speaker. She's still a member of Lakas. And in the past, when you look at the Alvarez case, she didn't even need the position to take somebody out as speaker. That's how good she is. Now, she wanted to do something, she can still do it, no? But I think there's a signal to the party, no, that there's a line that they need to follow, and that the party is being groomed to be the administration, vehicle in the midterms, and of course, tama si Ronald, and for the future elections to come. So party building, unfortunately, divergent personalities, interests, and views. But importante talaga yung position on the big issues, charter change, China, I think there's a consensus about economic reform and moving forward as far as economic development is concerned. And it reflects also on the president. I'm call Ronald what this reflects on. Maybe you can give us some more insight on that.
Pero before anything else, can I,
pinapakita
no?
nga sa ating kahapon at saka ngayon, Ana Maria at saka Ed Lingaw, yung picture taking sa house na magkakasama sila sa
Mano po.
lahat.
May mano po.
Bongbong Sales.
Shake hands.
Si Speaker Martin Romualdez nagmamano kay GMA, pero hindi mo rin may tatatwa yung sneer, yung classic sneer ni GMA habang nagmamano sa kanya.
Classic
At today,
sneer.
nakita
Talaga.
na magkakatabi sila, bagamat makikita mo rin yung body language ni GMA, medyo dumidistansya, no? Kaya hindi maa-appease ng mga developments itong mga subamagitan ng mga pictures na ito. Dahil
Pero
hindi
Ronald,
ba naman sa atin, alam yung tunay na nangyayari behind the scenes eh.
Ronald,
No?
sorry,
Kaya
Ronald.
yun ang pinag-uusapan natin ngayon. Ang nakikita kasi natin ngayon ay cynical Philippine politics in shameless full display. Di ba? Nakikita mo naman na nagsasaksakan sila, tapos kunyari nagbabate, kunyari nagpapa-picture taking, no? Kaya
Smile pa rin.
sino bang maniniwala dyan, no? Sigurado ko hindi naman tayo.
Teka,
no?
pero
Sino binobola nila?
Ronald, let me back up a bit. Kasi among us, malino naman yung linyahan eh. Who belongs to what group at sino yung kaaway nino. Medyo mali naman sa atin eh. Pero I can imagine that most Filipinos, parang, so ano nangyayari? Sino alin? Sinong kasangga nino? Sinong kasangga ng Malacanang? Baka you gentlemen can break it down for us in clear terms. Who is on whose side right now, especially going into, sabi nga ninyo, into the next presidential elections?
Maatpak.
Tingin ko,
I'll leave
lahat
that to
naman
Ronald, guys. I'll leave that to Ronald kasi Ronald is an insider in all of this. So, ako ay an analyst from outside. I'm looking at
Di ba maat pa
another
yan?
picture. Oh. So, Ronald, ikaw.
Yeah. Tingin ko, Prof. Ed, Ana Marie, ay lahat naman sila loyal pa sa presidente.
Okay.
No? Vice President Sara, of course, Speaker Belmonte, hindi ko alam si GMA. Pero ang tingin ko si Sara at saka si
Malaman yun,
Speaker
Romualdez.
Romualdez ay
Romualdez.
loyal pa kay presidente. No? Oo. Ang problema, before the midterms, mas kailangan ni Presidente Bongbong si Martin Romualdez.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dahil kontrolado niya ang House
Local
at
yan.
hindi ko pinagdududahan yung control niya sa House kahit may alleged attempt na mag-coup si Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. So, at least between now and the midterms, mas kailangan at mas didikitan ni Presidente Bongbong at of course ni First Lady Lisa Marcos si Martin Romualdez. Pero after the midterms, tingin ko magbabago na yung alignment at saka realignment dahil papunta ka na sa presidential elections.
Yeah.
At kung sino ang frontliner, no? Doon mag-gravitate yung mga politiko, even the president, no? Even the president. So, before the midterms, tingin ko mas kakailanganin ni President Bongbong si Speaker Romualdez at yung kanyang wherewithal to govern. Pero after ng midterms, most possibly ay mag-gravitate yung mga politiko, both local and national, papunta sa frontliner. At for now, ang medyo frontliner ay si Sara Duterte. Unless dramatically magbago yung landscape at may sumulpot na disruptor, no? Somebody like Rafi Tulfo or Robin Padilla. No?
Manong, may
Pwede
survey
magbago.
results ka na ba dyan, Manong? Baka may survey ka na dyan. Tulog mo naman sa amin. Baka may nagpa-survey na.
Si Ranjit.
I agree with our friend Manong Ronald, no, completely. That these movements, the dynamic we're seeing is part of a bigger picture, no, a coalition likely to break apart, no, inevitably. Pero my sense, and this is where I'll just put in my own opinion, if Sara Duterte is wise, and I know she is, she will keep this coalition together because right now everything is going for her. Okay? If she takes her focus out of building a successful argument for her as president, and she can only do that if she works with a team. We saw the last administration, what happened to the vice president. That's clear. If they're not united, things don't happen. Okay? And if she's wise, and I know she is, she'll work with this president because they have a good relation. They have, I think, from what I hear, Ronald, and maybe you can confirm this. I just hear this from other people that they personally they're very good friends. They have very good relations. It's the people under them are intriguing, and that this will be to the downfall not just of the administration but her bid in the forthcoming national elections. She has to keep her eye on the ball, and the way forward is being constructive. Yes, she should be critical. Yes, she can have a voice, but we saw the last administration. If they don't, the president, vice president don't work together, nothing is done. And in the end, the vice president loses because there's no argument, there's no proof of concept that you know she can manage a governance relationship, no, a coalition. And in the end, it's really in Philippine politics because our politics is not disciplined by platform, program, ideology, ideas. We don't have political parties in the real sense. Our politics is parochial and personal, and because it's not disciplined by those elements, you could easily go astray. And I think that's where VP Duterte has to make a choice. It's suicide for her to divorce from the president now, especially if there's no reason to do so. Number two, there are major, schisms between her, the president, her group, and the president's group. But there are lots of commonalities that can bind them together. And if she works her way through this against all this intrigue, she will be not just a successful vice president, but be a successful contender to the presidency when her time comes. And I think
agree, Prof.
together will be the focus moving forward, not breaking apart. It will be suicide for her, no matter how popular she is right now. And by the way, it's still a long time between now and 2028. So a lot of things can come.
Yeah.
And giving space to her opponents, to shine, it shouldn't be part of her strategy. Sticking together, I think that will be the best politics for her moving forward.
Okay, ang bilis
I
ng
agree,
panahon
I agree, Prof.
nangalahati tayo kagad. Pero sir,
Yeah.
we just need to take a quick break. Nangalahati tayo kagad. I'm worried na kukulangin tayo sa oras mamaya. Ang dami natin pag-uusapan pa. But please stay with us. We just take a quick break. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back. Still with us, former presidential advisor Ronald Llamas and UP political science professor Ranjit Rai. Professor Rai, you mentioned commonalities and how useful it might be for Sara Duterte to stick with the unit team. Kaya lang at this point, she's actually, she gained more votes than President Marcos in the last elections, and she, I think, is the most popular government official right
people
now.
are saying most popular, but we're not quoting any surveys.
Yes.
But internally, Okta has surveys that show her approval and trust ratings are even higher than the president.
Yes.
So that's clear. And while that is not a sure thing for 2028, no. My sense is this politics of dissonance, discord, and distrust. Hindi na uso ngayon yan. Right now, we have so many big problems. We need to work together. And it's going to be a hard argument for her. Lana, she has a portfolio under her. Why will we vote for her if she wasn't able to get anything done in 6 years? Diba? And the task for her now is to provide a proof of concept that she's the leader, no? And maybe even convince the Marcoses that their own interests are better served by her becoming a president in 2028. And I think that should be the focus. And I think that is still the focus. The Marcoses have a better, right now, until they have somebody that can replace her, they're better served by having her in the coalition. Her family is still very influential in many areas in the country. They have a strong hold on a segment of the cabinet. There are people who are still very loyal, no, even in the military, to the Dutertes. No, we know that, no, especially when this whole issue of pension reform came in. You saw the chatter on amongst the military, no? And while I don't want to fuel this kind of thought and discussion, being recognize the military is professional. But I want to emphasize the fact that the Dutertes are still a powerful force in Philippine politics. They're one half of the reason why this coalition won.
Yes, that's
Okay?
precisely
They control
why.
the South, and so the politics of unity is still a stronger argument for Sara and for Bongbong at this time.
Pero paano yun kung yung politics of unity nyo, kasi this early, meron ng spekulasyon who will be running in 2028 eh. And one of them is the Speaker Romualdez.
That's true.
And in fact,
Yeah.
that was mentioned, dyan yung ini-infer natin from that cryptic message from the VP about this tambaloslos na who should rein in his ambition. No? I'm referring to a male kasi yun daw creature na yun always refers to a male. So, I think meron na yan. Nakikita na natin yan eh. Di ba? Paano yun?
Tapos may recent developments mo sa media landscape.
Yeah.
Yan
Anyway,
na nga.
we'll get there.
Inevitable yan eh. Inevitable
Yan ang
na.
problema,
Na
actually.
magkakaroon yan ng competition
Yan ang
eh.
problema.
Di ba? What
Yan ang
about
problema, Ana
Mr.
Marie.
Yamas? Kasi sabi nag-shift na daw ngayon from unity to continuity. Yun na daw ang nagiging,
maganda.
Mahalaga.
focus
Yeah.
ngayon. What do you think of that?
Mahalaga yung sinabi ni Professor na una ay kailangan wag mag-break si Vice President dun sa unity na ine-espouse ni President Bongbong Marcos. At tingin ko, consciously, hindi siya hihiwalay. Dahil ang tingin niya kay Bongbong Marcos is a elder brother. No? Yun yung, kaya mahalaga, at tingin ko yung loyalty ni Vice President Sara Duterte ay mananatili kay President Bongbong Marcos. Ang problema ay there are other players at work here. May mga, tingin ko may mga relatives at may mga supporters si President Bongbong Marcos na ang iniisip, hawak na natin ang poder eh.
Yeah.
Bakit pa natin ibibigay sa iba? So itong mga to, nagpaplano, no? Hindi lamang para i-push yung kanilang sarili, kung hindi wasakin yung frontliner na for now, si Sara Duterte. No? Kaya, wag natin kalimutan, no, kahit loyal si Sara kay President Bongbong, she is still her father's daughter. Duterte pa rin yan. At yung Duterte ay capable of calling her enemies tambaloslos. No? Kaya yun yung nakita natin dito, it's the classic Duterte. No? Attacking yung kalaban nila. At ito yung pwedeng makaapekto doon sa unity. Kahit personally, Sara is loyal to the President, hindi lang naman yung President ang at work dito eh. Si Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, yung kanyang sense of entitlement, na siya yung nagpanalo kay Bongbong Marcos by bringing Sara Duterte as Vice President. Medyo nagrarangkel yan kay Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. Hindi na ako naging speaker, yung mga tinutulak ko pa sa gobyerno, hindi na-appoint. Tapos ngayon, clearly, minamanage ako para hindi ako magalit by bringing me to the trips. Doon sa trips, sabi na nga nung isang kakilala ko na kasama sa trip, sabi niya, yung attitude ni Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo sa ibang mga kasama sa trip, including the speaker, is very condescending. No, alam mo naman si ex-President Arroyo, yung kanyang classic sneer. Nakikita yan sa mga paano siya makipag-relate sa iba. So yung iba nararamdaman na very condescending siya sa kanila, na sila ay inferior. No? So isa to sa pinanggagalingan ito mga dynamics na ito, no? Yung sense of entitlement ni Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo at yung gusto ng iba na kapamilya ng presidente na wag nang ipasa, continuity na lang. Wag na ipasa sa iba. At ikalawa, yung sinabi ni Professor na focus on the problems of the country. Record high inflation, record high debt, record high deficit. Tapos yung sinasabi ni Secretary Benjokno na the elephant in the room, fiscal crisis, no, etc., etc. Lahat yan binanggit ni Congresswoman Arroyo sa kanyang letter last Thursday. Binanggit din yan ni Speaker Romualdez doon sa kanyang sagot na mag-focus tayo sa trabaho, sa problema ng bansa. Ang problema, yung kanilang pagkilos, yung kanilang kondukta, yung kanilang actuations, ay kinokontra yung sinasabi nila. No? By playing politicking, ay talaga nakakalimutan yan. Yung mga napaka-fundamental na problema na binabanggit ni Professor. Kaya, inuulit ko, Ang nakikita natin is cynical Philippine politics, no, in shameless display. No? Yun yung nakikita natin in shameless full display, no? Yung mga sinasabi nila na focus on the job, no, focus on the problems, hindi naman nila ginagawa eh. Ang magmamarka sa tao at this point ay yung salita ni Vice President Sara Duterte, tambaluslos. Yan ngayon ay word not only for the month, that will be the word for the year. No? Yung tambaluslos na yan.
You
Kaya
learn
nga
something new
makikita
every day.
mo na si Sara Duterte ay disruptor.
Prof, kasi ito, so far we've been only talking about one Duterte, si VP Duterte. I'm wondering where the other Duterte comes in and how he plays into the formula.
Yun yung
Okay,
Yun yung magdo-dominate.
Still talking. Yeah.
Ronald, teka,
Okay.
yung signal mo medyo malabo. So
Mr.
let's
Llamas,
wait for it to settle
naka-off
down
ka.
first kasi yung signal medyo, yung audio medyo pangit, hindi maintindihan eh. But let me throw that in muna. We've talked about so far only one Duterte.
No, you're choppy and you were cut off.
It's choppy. Abok, it's really choppy.
Off po kayo.
Paltang ko yung
Reconnect lang, Ronald.
Reconnect.
lang.
Reconnect.
Nag-ano kayo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, yun po. We've talked about only so far one Duterte. What about the other Duterte? And I bring that up kasi, of course, she is still her father's daughter. And number two, paminsan-minsan tinatamaan din yung elder Duterte ng mga pahayag, apparently, ng Pangulo. So how does that play into everything?
It's a major policy break, no? I mean, if you think about it, no? On many fronts, the president has already established that he's going to run a different course than what was done by the last administration. It's really up to their own estimate, but in the end, I hope that they think about the country in the end. Yes, elections are forthcoming, and it's true. I mean, here in Okta, we have clients who are even asking about the midterms this early, no? Who to support and all of these things. It is the reality, no, of our electoral and the political game as far as the Philippines is concerned. But going back to what Ronald said, it's true. Martin Romualdez, the Speaker of the House, is slowly becoming an alternative in as far as the coalition is concerned. When you look at his numbers over the last quarter, they've skyrocketed, no? Largely because he's always with the president. In Okta surveys, 17-point increase in approval and trust ratings, almost. And this is big. No, we're not seeing this. In fact, when you look at our data, after the president and after the vice president, the president, he's the third most popular, what you call this,
Official,
top government official. So nag-i-improve yung ratings yan. And maybe the people around him are seeing this as something positive. But in the end, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, di ba? If the Speaker of the House is able to perform, people will recognize him. If Sara Duterte as VP and as Education Secretary is able to perform, that will be good for them. But my argument is this, no? While that's inevitable that there will be some sort of break, this is too early in the day to undermine each other, because by disunity, not unity, will the coalition break apart and provide undermine its own performance. It's too early to do that, and I think detrimental in the end. We might get somebody from outside. There are other people. There are other people in the game, no, with names that are also rising stars, no, as far as Philippine politics is concerned. So I would suggest the long game as far as the government is concerned, as far as the coalition is concerned, because these are very hard times. It's unfortunate, no, that and siguro alam naman nila na alam na at least ni presidente na he's going to ascend, no, and reign over a country at a juncture where things are very hard. The next president will have it easier than him, kasi he'll be solving he needs to solve the problems now. Okay, to make an argument for whether his own heir or heir apparent or VP Sara to take over. If they mess up now, I don't think people are going to give them a chance. Filipinos are far more intelligent than these politicians think. And the last election was a a reaffirmation, no, of a hope, no, that these names, both Duterte, these two families coming together, Game of Thrones ka, ika nga sabi ni Ronald, no, will come together and bring something new and really push the country forward. If they mess things up, I don't think that argument, whoever they want, will be palatable to the Filipino public. Eh. Wala, hindi natin boboto. Kung pumalpak sila dito dahil disunited sila, pamumulitika, whether it's Martin, Speaker Martin or Sara, nobody will support them.
Professor?
And even now, when you look at the numbers of VP Sara, it's still largely Mindanao that's driving her numbers up.
Professor, yun ang itatanong ko nga.
She cannot just say na ayaw ko na makisama sa inyo because it's essential na lahat tayo naghahawakan in their coalition for them to move forward. So I think right now the politics of unity and working together is far more productive than what these other people, underlings in the organization are trying to do, intrigahin sila. So sana hindi sila makinig dun sa noise and which it's very hard to do that by the way though. But
Professor, hindi naman
terms tayo.
Professor, hindi naman noise yan it's based on what's happening and what's happening on the ground actually.
Yeah.
So, ang tinatanong ngayon, since you mentioned your surveys, and they actually reflect, your results actually reflect the results of other surveys, no, na actually ang concern ng mga tao inflation, jobs, the economy. May nakikita ka bang, since we're basing our analysis on what happened in the past, siguro 2 elections, sa tingin nyo, itong mga nangyayari ngayon, these political developments and the concerns being raised by people, meron ba dyang area na makakapasok yung traditional opposition na nakikita natin noon na natalo nung nakaraang eleksyon? Makakapasok ba yan?
Oh, yes, there is, yeah. We have numbers, we just can't talk about it on TV now, but we have numbers.
Really? Sige na, let's talk about it na.
They're still alive and kicking, no? They're waiting for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's always 5% of this of the population that has been, stable, critical of this administration.
Mm-hmm.
That 5% is enough to fill EDSA, and it's enough to create noise, no? That can become bigger and bigger. It's really up to this administration. This administration has all the support it needs as far as the people is concerned. All it needs to do is to really just show up, show the results. No, I know it's hard. It's very hard where we are now. No, and that will be in the end what people will remember. Nag-improve ba yung buhay nila? Sila ba yung naging mahirap? Okay, nung time na to. Kasi unlike the former President Duterte, he came into the picture in a context of a very good economy. Noy bequeathed him a good economy. PBBM is so unlucky, no? It's because of COVID, also because of the last administration. He has bequeathed with not just a bad economy, but really entitlement programs that are huge. Tertiary education, the pension fund of the military, all these free things, no? Irrigation, expanded CCT. Ang dami hong binigay na napakamahal na mga programa i-manage at a time when we don't have money. So really, if this administration does not perform, there's no talking about who they're people won't care about that. They'll listen to, they'll understand what they experienced in the last 6 years and they'll reject it. The last administration, for some reason, was able to make the argument for continuity, and people bought the idea of VP Duterte and President Marcos as that argument. It will be very hard in this time around. After if we come out an economic mess, people will reject their politics and their brand completely. So again, the only way forward is to work together. Unfortunately.
Well,
Mahalaga
let's bring in Ronald again.
Yung sinabi ni Ana Marie, Ed, no? Sa ganitong dynamics ba ay pwedeng ma-maximize ito ng ibang forces like third pole, yung binubuong partido ni Albi Benitez na nakapila ngayon sa COMELEC for registration, or yung dating opposition, yung pink wave,
Yes.
no? Dahil wag mong kalimutan na Ed, Ana Marie, Prof, yung pink wave natalo, but they got 15 to 16 million votes.
That's a lot.
And they got big mobilizations of volunteers, no? Hundreds of thousands, even a million nung last rally nila, yung Meeting de Avance. So qualitatively, mahalaga ito dahil ito ay very active. No? Bagamat ngayon, titingnan natin parang wala masyadong leader, dahil sabi ni Lenny, hindi na siya tatakbo at walang nag-scale up para mag-lead nito. It's there, even if it is dormant. No?
Yeah.
Pwedeng, kung may susulpot na bagong leader, pwedeng ma-harness yan, yung pink wave na yan. At sa ngayon nga, may mga ibang partido na gustong pumasok sa eksena. Itong bagong partido ni Albi Benitez, no? Sumisingit. So, nakikita ng mga iba na merong division, ay baka makasingit kami. No?
Yeah.
Baka makasingit kami. Paano? Si President Duterte is in a quandary. In one sense, ang laki ng utang na loob niya sa Duterte brand.
Yes.
Di ba?
You mean President
before
Marcos?
the
Yeah.
filing,
President Marcos.
You
yeah,
mean
before
President
the
Marcos?
filing, siya ay 19-20%. Sara was 28%.
Yes.
No? Nung hindi tumakbo si Sara, tumaas siya to 47. At nung si Sara nag-decide na maging vice president niya, tumaas siya sa 50 plus. So, laki ng utang niya dun sa Duterte brand. Not necessarily kay Digong, but the brand. Ano si Digong, binanatan siya eh. As weak leader, as sinungaling, as addict.
Hindi
No?
pinangalanan yun, ha?
Oh.
Hindi pinangalanan yun. Parang si Tambalos
pero
siya.
Manong Ronald,
Unnamed.
Manong Ronald, if I may
Unnamed job.
interject, Manong Ronald,
Yeah.
in our surveys, by September, they had already parity silang dalawa ni Bongbong. So, iba
Yeah.
yung reading namin, may utang na loob sila sa isa't isa. Sara
Yeah.
could not move forward in Northern Luzon, in Central Luzon or NCR without the Bongbong. No
Yeah.
way. The numbers were pretty stable as far as our reading was concerned. She was strong in the South. She had some following because of her dad in certain places in Luzon, but she could not have made it without Bongbong. So
Yes.
they each other. And so they know that. They've seen the numbers where they are really strong. And being strong in Mindanao will not be enough, honestly.
Pero
Yun, okay.
Prof, yung quandary ni Bongbong. Dahil
Yeah.
may utang na loob sila sa isa't isa. Pero alam din ni Bongbong na ang dami niyang minanang problema.
Yeah.
Doon sa tatay, di ba?
Tama,
Yung
tama.
yung drug war, no? Na nakakaso sa ICC, yung huge debt, no?
Yeah.
Almost 14 trillion, no? Pinakamalaking nautang na presidente si Duterte. Yung
Yeah.
corruption, lalo na marami pa rin tao si Duterte sa loob ng gobyerno na sinisimulan na nilang tanggalin, di ba? Ikaapat, yung inflation. Hindi naman niya ginawa yan eh, minanan na yan eh, di ba?
Yeah.
Ang problema, hindi niya mabanatan yung pinanggalingan ng kanyang problema dahil may utang na loob din siya. Pero Prof, kung papanoorin mo si Duterte sa SMNI, yung 3 hours na rambling niya, pumipitik na siya. No?
Yeah.
Sasabihin ni Digong, ipepredicate niya, hindi ako bumabanat sa presidente, pero mali yung ginawa niya sa EDCA. Pinapasok niya ang mga Amerikano, hindi na yan babalik, hindi na naalis. No? At bobombahin tayo ng China. No? Yung drug war, nasabi niya ay tama yung sinasabi ng presidente, pero ito yung ibig kong sabihin. Meron siyang predicate eh. Yung kay Laila de Lima, sabi niya, tanggap ko ang resulta ng korte, pero mali ang desisyon ng korte. So may mga banat si Digong, kung papanoorin natin yung kanyang mga interview kay Kibuloy sa SMNI, may nagsisimula na siyang bumanat. At ang pinakamatalas ng kanyang banat, yung kanyang mga vloggers.
Yeah.
No? Yung mga vloggers niya, no? Pagtsagaan yung panoorin si Banat Bay. Pagtsagaan yung panoorin si Maharlika. Panoorin nyo si Sasot, etc. Makikita mo na ito ay pinakawalan na. Unleash the dogs of war. Hindi ko sinasabi na dog sila.
Yeah.
But
You just said
I
it.
agree. I agree with your reading. If you want to see the dynamics, you look at all of these things. But in the end, it's in the president's. The ball is in the president's court.
Yeah.
The buck stops with him. He wants to win in this discourse, this conversation. He has to prove the critics wrong. And the best way to prove it is to broaden and deepen democracy and sustain, or create and sustain development. That's the only way forward. The next 6 years is not about Duterte, it's about Marcos, and they're trying to resurrect, a name, di ba? This is a restoration. That's the term I used,
Pero sir,
I coined, in a sense. This is a restoration, and for the restoration to happen, those two things have to be realized. And some people, quite in a weird way, they don't like the Marcos administration, they don't like Marcos period, but they also see the democratic space that we now enjoy, di ba? Very stark, from difference from now and then, yung time ni President Duterte. Ang laki ng improvement in terms of that that space where media people can talk. There's no more strong arming of institutions. This is a big thing. This is a
Yes,
big
sir.
thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
I
it's
understand,
weird
sir.
that it's happening under Marcos administration. It's kind of
Yes, sir.
you know,
Sir,
the-
pero sir,
ano.
let me squeeze this question in. Oh, okay, we've been talking about politics for just about an hour, but when you really think about it, we've only been talking about one side of the political fence. You're looking at factions in the administration fighting each other. Unfortunately, when you talk about politicking, sila nag-aaway eh. Let me bring this in. Where does the opposition, if that is still in existence, where does it come in? Where does the check and balance come in? And what about all these reports, all these rumors that some members of the opposition, the so-called opposition, then are now talking very friendly in a very friendly manner with the administration. So where does that bring the past opposition?
Hindi ako magugulat, Ed, kung yung PDP laban ay popostura na opposition sa midterm. Hindi ako
Pwede.
magugulat. Lalo na after nung meeting nila with the Chinese Communist Party last month.
Sinong PDP laban to? Which one? Yung kay
Sila,
Pacquiao or
si
yung...
President Duterte, dumalo siya doon sa meeting by Zoom.
Okay.
No, ang humarap si Cusi, si Matibag, etc. No? So binubuhay nila yung PDP laban kung saan meron silang tatlo o apat na senador. Si Robin Padilla, si Bongo, si Francis Tolentino, at saka si Bato. No? At tatlo dyan lalaban for re-election sa midterm. So hindi ako magugulat kung ipapackage nila yung sarili nila as an opposition with differences sa foreign policy, with differences sa drug war, no? With differences in a lot of things. So hindi ako magugulat. The old opposition pwedeng magbago into something new. Halimbawa, si Bam at saka si Shell Jokno ay wala na sa Liberal Party. Nagbuo sila ng bagong partido. No? So there can be a different realignment na no longer centered sa Liberal Party. No? Hindi rin ako magugulat if some Liberal Party members will become part of the Marcos government dahil sa call of unity. Ang hindi pa nga natin na pag-uusapan dito, yung another elephant in the room, the First Lady.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's a big elephant.
Dahil yung presidente kasi medyo conflict averse Kung mapapansin nyo si presidente, ayaw niya ng ganyang away Dinadownplay nga niya No? At dahil dinadownplay niya, sino ang posibleng makikipag-away? Who will hold the court? Who will man the store? No? At most probably, that will be the First Lady. Paano mas hindi conflict averse yung First Lady. Kaya sa susunod na kabanata, baka kinakailangan natin
sa susunod na episode, pag-uusapan natin, kailangan isang buong episode yan
Oo nga.
Kailangan isang buong episode sa totoo lang.
Talaga bulgaran ng ng mga elements. But I agree with Ronald in the sense that there are players here, there are personalities involved. And at some levels, all in the family also. They're different families, no? But a big elephant in the room is really our picking aside as far as the great superpower, the superpower conflicts in this region are concerned. And part of whether we agree with it or not, no, part of the schism within the ruling party is really a dissonance, no, as far as the position of China is concerned. It's incredible, no, how this early that disagreement on how to move forward is shaping politics at the local and national level, no? It's interesting to read how the president will maneuver and how will balance all of these elements. I think that is where the line in the sand has been drawn as far as this issue is concerned. And sana pansinin natin din yun. Importante talagang tingnan yung issue na yun kasi it will reshape yung dynamics dun within the ruling party. And I agree with Ronald, there is a space for the opposition. Whether people accept it or not, the survey numbers show Leni Robredo is still relevant. Alam mo yun, if she wants to get out of retirement, she can easily be that leader. But that's for the administration to give her the opportunity to rise by messing up, by being disunited, by taking their eye off the ball, and by basically reneging on their promise to the Filipino people to broaden and deepen democracy and create and sustain development. Those are two things that the government has to work on for the next few years, no? And it will need the help of Congress. Congress will be crucial there. That's why the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, that coalition, the willing, has to exist. And for VP Sara to continue to be relevant, see, that's the thing, eh? That's the worst thing to do, to make yourself politically irrelevant. And that's what the last administration did to the Vice President. And they can easily do that to VP Sara now. Okay? But she's a wise person. She knows where her interests lie, and it's in helping and pushing the agenda her agenda for the Filipino people forward. And if she has to work with BBM on that, and I know they will work together, that has to be done. Whether that there's noise or not, that they can't take their eye off the ball. It's going to be very hard, lalo coming the midterm elections now. But I think there's lots of issues that they agree upon, and they know that their future lies in holding hands with one another at some point. Because if she has the survey numbers, it doesn't matter if there's somebody in the family who wants to run. In the end, she will be anointed. But she'll only be anointed if she's loyal and works with the team. And they need each other. They need each other to move forward. It's a unique partnership, and it works. By the way, it works. It's continuing to work until today. But it's predicated on some sort of unity. And I hope that they'll continue to do that for the sake of the country.
Well, gentlemen, to be honest about it, ang dami pa naming tanong talaga. When you think about it nga, parang iisa pa lang tanong namin. Gumulong isang oras sa isang tanong. Among other things, yung nangyari sa ABS-CBN o nangyari sa ABS-CBN, kasi mukhang may connection. But anyway, I have to park that muna because we don't have time for that anymore. But we will have that in a future episode. We'd like to bring you guys again in ang dami pa na pag-uusapan talaga. So, gentlemen, I'm sorry, we're out of time, but we will have you back again. That's for certain. Maraming salamat, Professor Ranjit Rai at Ronald Llamas.
Thank you.
Anytime, Ed.
Ronald, thank you.
And that is it for the Chiefs. I'm Edwin Gao.
We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Ami Pamintuan.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.